Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. We are waking up to day 8 of a conflict that has the entire world holding its breath. And the question weighing heavy on all of our hearts right now is simple. Are American troops in danger? Can we still avoid World War III? Right now, the United States and Israel are standing at a critical and dangerous crossroads. President Trump has just issued a stark warning, threatening to expand US strikes against new targets inside Iran. For those of us who have lived through decades of global tensions and watched our brave men and women deploy overseas time and time again, these updates send a familiar chill down our spine. But there is a hard truth here that the mainstream headlines often gloss over. Just days ago, our forces executed a mission called Midnight Hammer. Utilizing our B-2 stealth bombers, the military neutralized an imminent, terrifying threat. We were looking at a radical regime that was dangerously close to possessing a nuclear weapon. They stopped an absolute disaster. Yet, as we watch this situation unfold, the tension only grows, and the danger is far from over. The sheer scale of this military operation is something we have not witnessed in a long time. Our military forces have completely knocked out 42 Iranian Navy ships in just 3 days. President Trump has made it clear that our armed forces are doing exceptionally well. And why was this extreme measure so absolutely necessary? Because we were dealing with a highly unpredictable, radical adversary that was dangerously close, just 8 months away from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Let that sink in. They were crazy enough to build it, and they would have used it. Taking that capability out wasn't just a tactical military victory, it was doing the entire world a massive favour. But here is where the situation takes a very twisting turn, showing us exactly the kind of regime we are dealing with. Earlier, Iran's president Masoud Pezeshkian actually came out and issued a public apology. He apologised to the neighbouring Arab countries that had been caught in the crossfire, promising that his nation would not attack them anymore unless Iran was attacked from those specific territories first. The Interim Leadership Council even echoed this, agreeing that no more missiles would be fired at their neighbours. You would think that might bring a brief moment of calm, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, for those of us who have watched the Middle East closely over the decades, we know that words from such regimes are often just smoke and mirrors. The reality on the ground tells a completely different, much darker story. Despite those empty promises, the Gulf states have continued to be aggressively hammered by strikes throughout the very same day. Iran has struck our Arab allies, including Kuwait and Bahrain. Qatar and Saudi Arabia have reported incoming missiles targeting military bases. In Dubai, a drone strike hit right near the bustling international airport. President Trump reacted by pointing out that this sudden, hollow apology only happened because the adversary is being heavily battered by relentless United States and Israeli attacks. It is a harsh, glaring reminder of why strong deterrence is the only language understood here. When a regime says one thing and does another, launching drones at civilian airports while publicly speaking of peace, it proves exactly why the unwavering alliance between America and Israel in the Middle East remains our strongest shield against total regional chaos. We simply cannot afford to lower our guard. The sheer panic of this conflict is not just happening on isolated military bases, it is spilling right into the spaces where everyday people travel, work, and live. Take Dubai, for instance. The world watched in shock as a viral video captured the terrifying moment a drone slammed into the ground right near the terminal building of Dubai's main international airport, the absolute busiest for passenger traffic in the world. Imagine the horror of seeing a huge plume of smoke rising just yards away from commercial passenger planes sitting on the tarmac. Authorities had to instantly suspend flights, and that was not an isolated incident. Over in the United Arab Emirates, Defense forces have intercepted a staggering 15 missiles and 119 drones coming in from Iran. This is the chaotic reality of the Iran-Israel war playing out in real time. The ripples of this dangerous escalation are reaching far beyond the Middle East, pulling our closest allies into the fray. The United Kingdom has just placed the HMS Prince of Wales, one of its 2 massive aircraft carriers, on advanced readiness. Defence sources revealed that the ship's crew has been given just 5 days' notice to prepare to sail. When Allied carriers start mobilising, you know the gravity of the situation has reached a terrifying boiling point. But beyond the advanced military hardware, we must pause and remember the human cost, something our generation understands all too well. We are seeing innocent folks, tourists and business travellers trapped in a nightmare. Consider Ian, a traveller who shared his gruelling 7-day journey, hiring a driver to navigate the Saudi desert in the dead of night just to escape Doha. When he finally reached Riyadh, a sudden airstrike shut down the airspace, leaving him stranded and scrambling to find a way back home, and the human tragedy deepens in Lebanon. Following intensified military operations targeting Hezbollah strongholds, the death toll has sadly risen to 294. We hear heartbreaking stories like that of Readiness, a heavily pregnant mother who had already fled a brutal war in Sudan. Now she finds herself walking down packed, dangerous roads, unable to carry her exhausted 3 children to safety. Whether it is an American traveller stuck in an airport or a desperate mother seeking refuge, these scenes remind us of the profound, devastating toll of conflict. But the consequences of this conflict are hitting much closer to home than you might think. In fact, they are reaching right into your wallet. We need to talk about the Strait of Hormuz. It is a narrow, fragile waterway, just 30 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, yet roughly 20% of the world's global oil and gas supply passes through it every single day. Right now, around 300 massive tankers are sitting dead in the water. They are going nowhere because the Iranian regime has threatened to set fire to anything that dares to sail through. This maritime paralysis has caused absolute havoc on global stock markets. We are seeing the benchmark Brent crude oil spike to $90 a barrel, and there are severe warnings from energy ministers that a prolonged conflict could push it to an unthinkable $150 a barrel. For us here at home, the pain is already being felt. The price of jet fuel has doubled in just 1 week. Motorists are watching prices creep up at the gas pumps, and very soon, everything from our winter heating bills to our weekly supermarket shopping baskets could become painfully expensive. And while everyday Americans are hurting economically, our nation is also deeply divided on how to handle this crisis. From Los Angeles to New York and right outside the White House in Washington, we are seeing rallies, some supporting the administration and others desperately calling for an end to the fighting. A recent PBS poll found that 56% of respondents actually oppose this military action. Another poll by CBS showed that 45% of folks feel this action is making America less safe. For many in our generation, the message is clear. We do not want another endless conflict in the Middle East. The political divide is stark. Democrats are arguing that this is a war of choice, urging the administration to focus on domestic affordability instead. On the other side, Republicans largely support the president's strong stance, believing it is vital for global peace alongside allies like Israel. However, even among the strongest supporters, there is a very clear, uncrossable red line. The American public is absolutely opposed to putting our troops on the ground. We simply cannot bear the thought of losing more American lives in a war that drags on longer than a few weeks. So after a week of relentless strikes that have rocked the region, shaken allied governments and rattled global markets, we have to pause and ask the hard questions. Where do things stand diplomatically? And most importantly, who is actually winning this war? In pure military terms, the answer might seem obvious. The United States and our allies have vast, overwhelming military superiority. We have established complete control of the skies, effectively holding absolute air supremacy. As we have seen over the past 8 days, our forces are able to strike at will, inflicting massive damage on military hardware, heavily fortified facilities, and underground command bunkers. But for those of us who remember the hard lessons of past decades, from the jungles of Vietnam to the long, difficult years spent in Iraq and Afghanistan, we know that winning battles does not always mean winning the war. The dynamics of the Israel-Iran conflict are incredibly complex, and they require us to look past the surface. You see, the adversary is playing a very different game. They are relying on the dangerous and brutal tactics of asymmetrical warfare. Their primary goal is not to defeat the American military in a conventional head-to-head battle. They know perfectly well that they cannot do that. Instead, their strategy is simply to survive. They calculate that if their regime can withstand the immense firepower of the world's most powerful military, that survival alone will be claimed as a massive victory. And they have a potent weapon in their arsenal to achieve this: global disruption. By causing severe economic chaos in the oil markets and political instability across the Middle East, they are betting on our exhaustion. They are hoping to make the situation so incredibly uncomfortable, so economically painful for the American taxpayer, and so politically chaotic that over the coming weeks, we will simply decide the cost is too high. They want to wear us down until we walk away. As we look ahead to the coming weeks, the most pressing question we all have is, how long could this conflict possibly go on? The administration has suggested this might be resolved in a matter of weeks. But we must remember that wars always involve two sides. Even with a massive military mismatch, the opposing regime still has agency. We could very well see a situation where the United States tries to declare victory and bring our focus back home, but the other side simply refuses to quit. They might continue their chaotic disruptions, launching asymmetrical attacks and trying to drag this out. The terrifying reality of the Iran-Israel war is that even if the heavy bombing stops soon, we could be feeling the painful economic and political ripples of these past 8 days for years and years to come. For those of us who have lived through the Cold War, Vietnam, and the heartbreaking aftermath of 9/11, we know that the true cost of conflict is not just measured in dollars. It is measured in the lives of our young men and women in uniform. We stand firmly with our allies, knowing that the security of Israel is absolutely crucial for stability in a deeply volatile world. Yet, as the dark and unpredictable nature of the Israel-Iran dynamic continues to unfold, our greatest hope is that our leaders act with both overwhelming strength and profound wisdom. We believe in peace through strength, but we deeply fear the trap of another endless Middle Eastern war. Please, keep our brave service members in your thoughts tonight. Comment "God protect our troops" if you stand with our men and women in uniform. Subscribe now to join our community of patriots who value the hard truth over political spin. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and may God bless America.